Hello, TEDx London, how are you doing? Good. My name is John Travolta. You're welcome. There's two things I'd like you to know at the start of my TED Talk. Number one, I am a queer person. All that means, for those of you that don't know about this sort of thing, is that I identify as better than other people, okay? Well done. Number two, I'm a stand-up comedian and a drag king. For those of you that don't know what a drag king is, you might have seen drag queens. Drag queening is a performance of femininity. Drag kinging is a performance of masculinity. Not all drag is pointing somewhere and then going there, okay? Good, good. I do feel like I'm preaching to the choir somewhat. Today I want to talk to you about a stand-up gig that I did a few years ago. I was very, very excited about this gig. It was at a very prestigious comedy venue, so I checked the lineup on my way there, and it was all men. That's unfortunately very common in the comedy industry. And I wasn't performing as John Travolta that night. I was performing as my non-drag stand-up comedian alter ego, Jodie Mitchell. So when the MC called my name to go on stage, he said, "Please welcome Jodie Mitchell." And these guys in the audience started to boo. And we know why they were booing. They were booing because they'd heard what they thought was a woman's name. I wouldn't have minded if they were booing because they thought it was a stupid name. It is a stupid name. I always assumed that someone in my family was a big fan of Joni Mitchell, and it just never came up. My 21st birthday, I said to my mum, "Are you the big fan of Joni?" And she went, "Who?" We're just uniquely uncultured as a family. So I'm walking on stage at this gig. I've got these guys booing. I actually didn't mind going on stage to boo. I think it's quite high camp to go on stage to booing. You know, it's like, "Boo, I've arrived." It's quite fun. But there were a few other people in the audience that I could tell were opposed to my presence. Like, there was this couple in the front row, and I could tell that they weren't really enjoying the fact that I was existing as a person. I could tell that because they were very, very subtly doing this. And hissing. So I picked up on that because I'm an empath. I spent about 5 minutes winning the audience over, and then it went very well. There was only one slightly sticky moment. I got a wee jump scare because there was an empty seat in the front row that was doing an amazing impression of my dad. Really got me. Now I finished. I'd had a very good time. It was the interval. I went to the bar. I felt I'd really earned myself a wee drink. And this guy came over to me, introduced himself. He went, "My name's David, and I really enjoyed your set." And I said, "Thank you so much, David. I'm so glad." And he went, "Yeah, I don't really watch women comics, but you're very funny for a woman." I know he's obviously what we in the industry would refer to as an enormous arsehole. I know we can all see that. I'm actually not a woman. I don't identify as a woman. I identify as non-binary. My pronouns are they, them. I'll also accept as seen on TV. Feel free to use that. But I was quite excited by what David had said. I was excited to have found an honest bigot in the wild, and I didn't even have my net with me, so I wanted to ask him some questions. I said, "There are so many amazing, talented women comedians out there. How have you managed to avoid watching women comics?" And he said, "Well, when they come on the TV, I turn it over." And I said, "I think we found the crux of the issue, David." But I found that even more interesting because there's this rule that we talk about a lot in comedy, which is the rule of tension. You're supposed to build the tension and then break the tension. That's how you get a laugh. And the way you build the tension is you get the audience to think, will it be funny or won't it be funny? Will it be funny or won't it be funny? Will it be funny or won't it be funny? And then something funny happens or something shocking happens and it breaks the tension and you get a laugh. But if you're not a cis man and you're doing comedy, and by cis man I mean someone that was assigned male at birth and identifies with that now. If you're not a cis man and you're doing comedy, there's a rule before the rule of tension, which is the rule of trust. You need the trust of the audience in order to build tension, because if they don't trust you, they won't be thinking, will it be funny or won't it be funny? They'll just be thinking, it won't be funny. Or if you're on the TV, they'll turn it over before you've even said anything. So you can't build the tension and you can't get a laugh. And I know about the rule of trust because I know that if I perform in the Beard, I don't have to work to have the trust of the audience. I can get laughter straight away. I can do exactly the same set that I might do out of drag and I'll have that laughter there. I'll have that trust there at the beginning. But if I perform without the Beard, I have to spend about 5 minutes winning people over. And I know that if I walk through a room with the Beard on, men will move out of my way. It's like the parting of the Red Sea, feminist edition. You should all try it. So I was so excited to have found proof of the rule of trust in the form of David. And I said to him, are you consciously thinking when you turn over the TV, I don't want to watch a woman, I don't think women are funny? And he said completely neutrally, like he was just offering an interesting conversational opinion. He said, well, when I see women doing comedy, it makes me feel violent. Watching women do comedy made him feel violent. Don't worry, he's not the special guest. I'm not going to be like, in here tonight! It's Scary David! The venue removed him. But I really debated whether to talk about that experience or not because it feels quite extreme. And I also wasn't sure that it would be believable because I can't imagine being moved to the point of physical aggression by the idea of someone that isn't a cis man being funny. I guess I'm just like securing my masculine air or something, I don't know. But as I talk to more and more of my friends and colleagues who are stand-up comedians, who are women or trans-masculine or non-binary people, I realised 2 things that convinced me to talk about it. Number 1, from the sheer scale of how many of them had experienced the same thing or worse, I realised that dismissing and undermining our voices doesn't have to be extreme for it to be important to talk about and call out. Because not thinking that women are funny is just the first rung of a ladder that has behaviour like Scary David's further up. And number 2, it hit me harder than ever that my friends that were feminine presenting had had a much harder time than me because of that. Not to mention if they belonged to other marginalised groups. Out of drag, I'm very masculine presenting. I know that won't shock anyone in the room. I'm butch, and the more masculine presenting that I became as I came out as trans and non-binary, as long as I didn't mention being trans on stage, the less I got heckled, the more respect I had. But when I'm myself on stage, I still don't have the same instant command of the room that John has. That's why I wanted to start this talk off as John, because I don't sound Scottish anymore. I lost my Scottish accent when I was 10. I got moved down to the south of England because a private school were going to sponsor me to be their poverty mascots. I'm not fully working class anymore. I'm not fully middle class. I'm sort of in class limbo between them. I'm like the social personification of the Greggs Flat White. That sort of... That's my class identity. Glad you liked that. We've been socialized in the West to find men better orators because of their deeper voices. And you can find evidence of this as far back as early Roman texts of men being described as natural public speakers, while the language used to describe women is at the same time animalistic, braying, screeching, whining. It's language that we still use today in exactly the same gendered way. And these gendered perceptions of who's funny or not, or who's good at public speaking or not, aren't true. It's completely arbitrary that the pitch and tone of your voice should in any way dictate how much people respect and trust you. It's our internal biases that influence how inclined we are to listen to someone when they're speaking. And we don't have to be affected by that social conditioning if we just become aware of it. I know that if I go on stage and I talk with my natural English accent, which is less deep and therefore perceivably less masculine, people will laugh less, it will lack gravitas, and I'll have to work harder to earn their respect and their trust. But I have no intention of letting that stop me from doing stand-up comedy, even if I am the only non-cis male on a lineup, because the more women and trans-masculine and non-binary people take up space, the more these perceptions are questioned and the more things will change. Because we're very funny. Thank you for starting that clap off. I think all that has to happen really is that people, and especially cis men, just need to work harder to accept that. I don't mind, while we change things, having the only vagina on a lineup. I just mind that it's never, ever the only cunt. Thank you.